Hi everybody, hope you're having a great day. I busted my butt this morning and this afternoon to get all my outside things done so that I could spend the afternoon baking. And it's now apparently 4:30 and I'm just getting started, so I've got a long evening ahead of me. This is project number 1 on the docket. Super quick cinnamon bun recipe that I wanted to share with you all, like seriously less than half an hour, and you don't need any yeast. Yay! So this is a long time and family favorite. The bun part of the recipe comes from one of my very favorite cookbooks, my Purity All-Purpose Flour Cookbook, which you can see is fairly well loved. It came to me in February of 1984 from Auntie Linda and Uncle Carrie, and I've been using it ever since. So the recipe that I'm looking for is on page 194. Also very well loved. It's a tea biscuit recipe. This recipe has been used about 1,000,000 times over. So what I've done today is I've put my flour and my baking powder, 2 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt in my bowl. I've got a little bit of extra flour in my measuring cup just to flour the countertop for when I roll out the dough. I've got a cup of milk and a half cup of butter. I've actually doubled the recipe just because it makes a more reasonable size batch for the way that these disappear in my house. So the recipe is 2 cups of flour, 4 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, half a cup of shortening, I just use butter, and 1 cup of milk. And like I say, I've doubled that. So what I'm gonna do is I've got my flour, my baking powder, and my salt in my bowl. I'm just gonna sift that up quickly together. I'm gonna cut in my butter, make it kind of crumbly, add in my milk to make it into a nice dough, and then I'm gonna roll it out on the counter to make the base for my cinnamon buns. So I'm gonna do that, and I will be back to show you what that all looks like shortly. All right, so I've got the butter in. I actually probably could have stood to have my butter a little bit harder. I had it out on the counter softening for another project, so just used what I had out. So I cut it in with a fork, and then I just kind of fluffed it like this with my fingers just to blend it all in. I'm gonna add in my milk. I usually do about 1.5 cups, mix it up, add in the rest, but for the purposes of this video and the fact that I only have one hand to do this, I'm just gonna dump it all in. So I'm gonna mix it all up until it's a nice and combined, and I've got a nice dough, and then I'm gonna roll it out on the counter. So let me just mix this up, and then when I'm ready to press it out on the counter, I will be back and you can see what it looks like. All right, so the secret to a nice fluffy biscuit dough was to not mix it too much. So I mixed in the milk with the fork, and then I gave it about 5 to 6 flips just with my hand, just to kind of mix everything in solidly, but I didn't beat the bejesus out of it. I want to keep it nice and fluffy. So you'll find there'll still be some kind of wet-ish spots. That's totally okay. I'm just gonna put it down here on my floured surface. It's gonna be nice and big and messy and gooey. I'm gonna flatten it out into a big rectangle that I can add my cinnamon and sugar to. So I do that just with my hands. I don't use a rolling pin. Usually I kind of fold it into a square-ish to begin with. One more on this side. It's okay to have some rough edges. That's totally fine. Flip it over. So I'm gonna flatten this out into its rectangle, and then we'll be ready to put the toppings on it. All right, so there it is. I've got it rolled out. You can see it just looks super rough. There's nothing fancy about it. It's about as messy as you can imagine in terms of form. Basically just squish it out, push it out with your fingers. It's about the size of a cookie sheet. Almost exactly, actually. So 9 by 13 cookie sheet. If it's about that size, it should work out pretty much perfect for you. So I'm just gonna smother some butter on top of it, sprinkle it with cinnamon, add some brown sugar. Don't ask me for amounts. I just put it on until I think there's enough on there. And then we're gonna roll it up, cut it up, put it in a pan and pop it in the oven. All right. I used about 1/4 cup of butter, so half of one of those sticks. You can see that I just kind of like slathered it on there. Gonna make them extra delicious. And now for some cinnamon. I cover it over really good with cinnamon because, well, who doesn't love cinnamon? I think that's enough. I should probably stop now. Okay, that's good for the cinnamon. All right, time to add some brown sugar. So I quite literally reach my hand into the brown sugar bowl. Sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. And 1 handful is really, if ever, enough. So put another one on there. Oh yeah. So when this cooks, of course, the butter melts and it makes a nice, nice gooey filling when the sugar melts. All right, I know I'm a sucker. This is probably gonna end badly, but I'm gonna add a little bit more. Just make sure it's nice and covered. Even the ends, because I bake those too, and somebody always, oh, crunchy piece. Okay, I think we're covered. I'm gonna roll these up. I usually start at the end. I might have to, yeah, I'm gonna have to come back. This is gonna need 2 hands, but I'll roll them up and then show you how I slice them up, okay? All right, so I've got them all rolled up. You may find when you roll them, sometimes you'll see there's a little bit of dough there. So sometimes the dough will stick a little bit to the counter. You may end up with a little bit of a hole. I just pinch it together and you're good to go. Minimal filling loss. Oh, a little bit of brown sugar out of the end, but for the most part, everything is tucked safely inside. So usually what I do, I kind of estimate about half. I'm gonna score it there, half again, half there, and then each of those, I probably could cut those into 4 actually. So I do another score, 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 1, 2, and 4, 3, 4, 2, 4. There we go. And that's gonna give me a nice big pan full for the oven. So I'm just gonna turn the oven on to 425. These bake hot and fast, and that means you've got cinnamon buns ready for breakfast or brunch or a snack or friends that are popping over and you need something quick in the oven. Super easy, super delicious. I'll show you what they look like all panned up. All right, so I've got 12 in my big glass baking dish. Also use that one for lasagna. I've got 4 in my little square glass baking dish. I didn't grease my pans or anything. There's plenty enough butter in those. You don't need to worry about that. They might stick a little bit when you pull them out, but I just use like a spatula just to loosen them up, and they come out no problem at all. Certainly you could, if you wanted to grease them, you certainly could. These will double, not quite double in size, but pretty close. So they're gonna really bump up to each other. That pan is gonna be full when they come out of the oven. So I just kind of, take a spatula and cut between them just to pull them out nicely. They're not, if you're looking for kind of the perfect looking cinnamon bun, I wouldn't say that this would be the cinnamon bun for you, but they are quick and they are delicious, and there's about 1 million different ways that you could make them. So I'm gonna pop them in the oven. I'm gonna put them in for 10 minutes, check them. They may need 12. Every time I bake them, they need a little bit different time. I think my oven is a little bit finicky. So I'm gonna put them in for 10, check them. If they need a couple extra minutes, I'll give them a couple extra. If they're ready, I'll pull them out, and then I will talk to you about some other ways that you can make these up. All right, that's 10 minutes. They definitely need a few more. Ta-da. Oh my God, they smell so good. And to me, they look just perfect. I know they're not, the fancy round cinnamon bun that you get when you go to the bakery, but to me, they are the most perfect cinnamon buns in the world. They have never, ever failed me. They have made many, many tummies very, very happy over the years. And when my daughter was just young and it was just her and I, and we didn't have very much money, these were a staple treat at our house, and always brought so much joy to our home, made it smell wonderful, and gave us something tasty that we could make together and enjoy together. So lots of nostalgia with these, and like I say, they're super, super easy. If you don't have the ingredients to make them at home, you could certainly make them with the Pillsbury crescent rolls. Roll that out, put them together. You could make them with Biscuit mix at the store. They really are super easy. The biggest thing with these, like I mentioned earlier, was just to make sure that you don't over knead them. It will make them tough, and nobody likes a tough biscuit. So I don't know, they're still just out of the oven. They're super, super hot. I can't even pick one up, but I will, you can see how, whoops, now you can see how flaky they are. They're super soft. They're awesome hot. They're great cold too. You can pop them in the microwave, whatever you want to do. And if you wanted some kind of icing on them, you could certainly whip up a quick little icing or glaze and drizzle it over top. We never have. We find them quite rich without it, but you could certainly do that as well. There's the beauties. Happy Cinnamon Bun Sunday, everybody. See you soon.